Everybody, and welcome. I'm Linda Kroll, and I want to welcome you to Should I Stay or Should I Go? 5 vital questions to help you know. And you're in the right place, even if you've never thought of that question before. If you'd like just some tips on how to make your relationship better, you're in the right place to do that. If you'd like some tips on how to improve your self-esteem in the relationship you're in the right place. But for many of you, you may be conflicted. There may be some thought of whether you want to stay or whether you want to leave. So I'm going to help you today by giving you the 5 questions you need to ask yourself should you decide to stay or go, and the 5 questions you need to ask yourself to make your relationship better today, starting now, even after this webinar. So I'm going to take a breath and bring myself present, and I invite you to do the same, because congratulations for getting here. It takes time out of your day, and I'm very honored that you're spending it with me, whether you're live or seeing the replay, because wherever you are in your relationship now, and you may be separated, you may actually be past your divorce, and for some of you, you may be professionals checking in to see what this process is all about, and I welcome you all, because now that you're here, let's truly be here. Let's be present together, and let's just take a breath. And if you can, turn off your devices, your email, and see if we can not multitask together and just be here. So I'm Linda Kroll. I'm a therapist, mediator, attorney. I'm a Chopra certified master teacher of meditation, yoga, and perfect health. And a year ago, I wrote the book on compassionate mediation, how to add passion to your marriage or compassion to your divorce. And right now, you are part of a dream of mine, which is to sit in my office, which is where I am. I'm in my office in Deerfield, Illinois, outside of Chicago. And I'm talking to you wherever you are in the world. And if you're like some of my clients, you may be alone watching this. You may be alone thinking your partner's never going to learn any of these skills. And even if they don't and you do, you're going to improve your relationship. Because people come to me individually with a lot of symptoms of depression or sadness or relationship problems, and what they're not really recognizing is there's something that they're unhappy about in their current relationship, but they think they're stuck. They think they have to see the world as black or white. I either have to stay in a relationship that's unhappy or I have to get divorced, and I don't want to. So today I'm going to offer you a rainbow of options that you don't even know you have. Because instead of seeing the world in black and white, I'd love to give you hope to see it in color. So I do have a lot of degrees, a lot of education, but my heart goes out to your heart because I've been where you are. So whether you're watching this alone, whether you're hoping your relationship will get better and your partner is willing to watch this too, whether you're thinking about a separation but haven't talked about it, whether you're separated and aren't sure what you want to do, or you're planning a divorce, in a divorce, or post a divorce. I've been all those places. I know what you're feeling. So just a short story about me, if I may. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of hope when I married my college sweetheart in 1969. So I just dated myself. Yes, 1969 when I graduated college. And I was filled with hope for a beautiful home with the children we always wanted, hope that we would have our family and friends and pets there, hope that it would be the happily ever after. And for 20 years, I was blessed because I did have that happily ever after. I had 2 beautiful daughters, but 20 years into the relationship, I began to lose hope that it was going to last. And yet I still held hope that we could resolve our differences. And even after we separated, I still had hope that we could find our way back to each other. And 10 years after we separated, when we finally got divorced, I was still hoping that we could have a perfect divorce, that we could do it differently than anyone had ever done it, filled with love and respect and partnership and compassion. And 20 years later, it's good. I'm still hoping for better, but in my heart, it's the hope that had me write the book. and had me create a program so that I could help you hold on to hope. And that's what my intention is for you today, to get hope, to get inspiration, to get some guidance and support. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to go over those 5 questions. And if you're seeing a replay and you'd like to ask me a question, send a question to support@lindakroll.com, and I'll do my best to get you the answer. So the intention for today is, now that you've learned a little bit about me, I'm going to ask you a little bit about you. I'm going to share the process that I offer all my clients, whether they come in for individual counseling, couples counseling, or divorce mediation. I'm going to then give you the 5 questions that you need to ask yourself. And if it's relevant for you, at the end of this session, I'm going to talk to you about a new program that I'm beginning where I can offer you support on all of these areas. Okay, your turn. How are you right now? Take a deep breath. Took a lot to get here. Put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your stomach. How are you? What are you feeling? What do you need? If you were in my office right now, I see people individually, and even when they come in as a couple, I'll see them alone for a moment, and I'll ask them the same questions I'm asking you. What's going on? What's happening in your life right now? What are you happy with, and what are you not happy with? What do you wish could change? What do you see the problems in having that change? And as you're talking, if you were here, I'd be watching to see, is he or she more scared or more sad or more angry? I've been looking for the parts of you that could use support, and what parts of you you push aside. In other words, do you show up in your relationship and you don't speak your truth because you're busy taking care of other people's needs? Are you angry but sad because you're afraid to show your anger? So I'm watching to see how you're feeling. I'm watching to see what parts you exile and push aside. I'm watching to see how you manage your life and just show up in your relationship. And then I'm also listening for, how do you get extreme? What do you do when you're stressed? Do you eat too much, drink too much? Are you having an affair that you're not talking about? What are you doing to numb yourself in a way that keeps you from really being your authentic self? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'd also ask you questions about your family of origin. And the reason I would do that is because I'd want to know, what did you learn from your mother and father? What did you learn about roles in a relationship? What did you learn about self-esteem for yourself? And I would listen to what you would tell me about your family of origin, and also what you would tell me about your partner's family of origin. And then when I put you back together in the same room, I would give you my blurb, which is the introduction that I give to everybody who comes to my office, whether they're coming in alone, with a partner, to make their marriage better, or to get a divorce. Everybody gets this. I believe we all have a healthy self. And when we're in self, we're calm, clear, and compassionate. Do you know those moments? They're usually just moments, because we're not always in self. And what I'm talking about right now is an internal family systems-based definition of self and parts. And I'll talk more about that later. But when we're in self, we're calm, clear, connected, compassionate, curious, confident, courageous, a lot of C words. We're also grateful. But we're not in self, we're in parts. So here's my columns. Here's self with all the C words, and I can send this to you if you'd like. But instead we're in parts, and the parts we're in are exiles, managers, and extreme parts. So what that means is, we learned in childhood some parts weren't going to get our needs met. So if we felt hurt or sad or scared or angry, some of us learned to push that aside because it wasn't safe. And instead, we go out in the world and we manage. A lot of us learned how to manage by being nice and pleasing and caretaking. Some people manage by being hardworking or stoic. There's a lot of different ways to manage, but many of us manage by putting on what I call a pseudo self, where we look like we're in self, but we're really feeling a lot of those exiled feelings underneath. So instead of allowing our exiles to be seen, the managers get exhausted, and out come these extreme parts to numb us. So again, we get addicted to things. Some of us can get addicted to shopping, TV, drugs, chocolate. We can get enraged. We can put walls up around our heart to keep from getting hurt again. But we're not in self. So if you could imagine, and this is what I put on my easel, but if you could imagine a drawing where I have two castles representing you and your partner, and hiding out in the dungeon, afraid to be seen, are the exiles, the sadness, the hurt, the vulnerability, sometimes the anger. And standing guard are the managers, making sure there's no threat. And if there is the threat, out come these exiles fighting with each other. And the only way for safety to happen is for self to be present. And my job is to help you get to self. So IFS, Internal Family Systems, defines self as all those C words, that essence of who we are. When I studied at the Chopra Center, self became that higher consciousness, where we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And if we learn to see our human experience from a higher level of consciousness, we can respond rather than react. And then I studied with Sark and Dr. John Waddell, and they talked about having an inner wise self, where we have a deep knowing inside of us. So whatever you call self, whether it's the universe, higher power, God, your true self, whatever you call it, that's what we're talking about getting in touch with today. It's easier when we're in self, when we're coming from a mindful, present, witnessing awareness, and we're not buffeted about by every thought we tend to think. The questions. The first question is, are you being your best self? Think about it. Think about who you were when you got married. Think about all the dreams you had. And think about all the ways you've been defensive. If you hadn't gotten the appreciation, affection, attention, and acceptance you've desired, you might be reactive. So you might have created some bad ways of communicating, some bad habits. You might have some filters through which you constantly judge your partner or yourself. You may have walls around your heart that you don't want to put down because you're afraid if you put them down, you're going to be hurt again, or you'll be taken advantage of, or you'll go back into some codependent relationship that you're working your way to get out of. So are you being your best self? The second question is, are you being compassionate with yourself and then also compassionate with your partner? And the reason this is so important, even if you know today that you want a divorce, creating a compassionate relationship is vital for so many reasons. It's vital if you have children, you'll always be related. It's vital for your own personal health and well-being to get to a place of compassion and peace. So creating a compassionate relationship requires you to practice empathy, even if you feel like that's all you've done is give empathy your whole life. But it's being empathetic in a way that listens from your higher self and recognizes, even if you see your partner acting out in ways that are hurting you, that's their extreme part, trying to manage the fact that they too feel hurt, sad, scared, abandoned. And what you can do is have compassion for that inner child that you recognize was probably somewhat wounded in his childhood or her childhood before, and form a way to dialogue that allows you to come from your higher self, set appropriate boundaries, and begin to get your needs met. And we'll also talk a little bit about the 5 ways to receive what you want and need. And those briefly are, you have to know what you want and need, number 1. Many people don't, we forget. We're so busy taking care of other people, we've forgotten what we want and need. So taking the time to get to self and be your best self and figure out what makes you happy and what you want instead of what you don't want is going to be very helpful. So the first step to getting your needs met is to know what they are. The second step is to know you deserve them. And unfortunately, based on family of origin, early messages, life experiences, the deservability quotient of a lot of us isn't where it should be, or it can be. So knowing you deserve it really gives you the ability for the third step, which is to ask for it. So know, deserve, and ask, because if you don't know you deserve it, you come out whining or naggy or giving ultimatums. If you know you deserve to have your needs met and to have a relationship that you desire and deserve, and get clear on what you want, you learn how to ask for it in a way that respects the other person's ability to say yes or no. And sometimes they'll say yes if you're asking from a place of self-leadership. But if they say no, you may have other options to take a look at. And then the fourth step, know what you want, know you deserve it, learn how to ask, be willing to receive. And many of us find it more difficult to receive than it is to give. But that's a muscle you need to exercise so that you can receive. And the fifth step is to stay grateful. So can you imagine if you took all this to your relationship today and decided to come from your higher self, know what you want and need, know you deserve it, learn how to ask for it, willing to receive it and stay grateful. If you learn nothing else from here today, try that. It will help, I promise. But if that's not going to be enough, and you really are looking to what's next, then the third question, the first question is, are you being your best self? Second question, are you being compassionate with yourself and your partner? And the third question is, have you explored all of your options? Have you explored all of your options? And for many people, you don't even know what those options are. You're into a black or white. I have to stay and be unhappy, or I have to leave and be unhappy. I don't want to do either, so I'm just going to stay here. So what I want to offer you today is some of the options, and there's more in my program that we'll talk about. But just to start, you could actually go to counseling alone with your partner. You could create a postnuptial agreement if they will allow you to do that to answer some of your issues. You can separate without any legal need. You can create a legal separation. You can divorce. And there's a myriad of other possibilities inside of each one of those. So make sure that you know all of your options before you make any decision. That's question number 3. Question number 4 is, do you understand your finances? And for many of us, that's difficult. It's difficult to keep a current watch on what's your cash flow, what's your outflow, let alone where your assets are, where your debts are, what your net worth is. So sometimes people stay in a relationship when they should leave it because they're afraid of finances. And conversely, other people leave a relationship when they should stay because they don't know how to communicate. So hopefully you'll learn how to communicate and together go over your finances. Check out your assets and your debts. Talk about what's important to both of you in terms of your retirement fund, your children's college funds, and all your goals. And when you're having these conversations with compassionate communication, meaning you're coming from your highest self, you're letting go of the limiting beliefs and judgments you have about your partner. You unburden the pain from the past and you relate from your heart. When you're learning how to do this with compassionate communication, it changes the dynamics of your conversation and it changes the dynamics of your relationship. So right now, you can understand your finances. And a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to get clear until something happens or until I get divorced. And they put their lives on hold until they get divorced. And then I've often said, if people were as willing to do as much work on themselves in their marriage as they have to do to get divorced, there'd be a lot more intact families. Because if you're waiting to get divorced to get a job or go back to school, do it now. Make yourself the best version of yourself in the relationship you have now, and then see what you want to do. The question is not should I stay or should I go, but how can I be my best self? And then decide what I want to do. And then the fifth question, if you've done all the rest of them, are you being your best self? Are you being compassionate? Have you explored your options? Do you understand your finances? The fifth question is one I ask my clients all the time. If you had a magic wand, what would you rather do? To add passion to your marriage or compassion to your divorce? Because it's possible once you've learned how to communicate from your higher self, once you've put your walls down around your heart, once you've told your partner what you want and need and respectfully given them empathy, miracles can happen and you can create something new together. So give this a try before you decide whether you're going to stay or whether you're going to go. So the 5 questions once again, Are you being your best self? Are you being compassionate to yourself and your partner? Have you explored all your options? Do you understand your finances? And given a choice to stay or go, what would you rather do now? And try it. You can always go. Try to see what it takes to bring all these techniques back to your relationship now. So if it's okay, I'd like to share with you the program that I've created to help you in all of these areas.